Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Bold TV. My name is Matt Canizaro, and you have tuned in for the Inside the OC podcast, our show dedicated entirely to talking about the USBC Open Championships, its competitors, the Bowlers Journal Championships, and just some great things in the history of bowling. Joining me on today's show, my co-host is Aaron Smith. Aaron, welcome back once again. Looking forward to today's conversation with a standout in the game, both on the lanes and behind the scenes. And he's given us some great memories on the lanes as a performer, and then even in recent years in some of our events as well, and then working hard for the decades behind the scenes in the PBA Southwest region.
Absolutely, Matt. Good afternoon, everybody. Pete McCordic is going to be our guest today. As you mentioned, all those great things about Pete. Definitely looking forward to catch up. Even in the few minutes before the show, catching up was a great experience. So we're definitely looking forward to hearing some stories. You know, personally, I don't know how well the folks can see it at home, but over your right shoulder there, you got the Matt Canizaro jersey hanging up. I know we got some regional stories to share as well about Matt on the lanes, not just covering the action from the back. So that's pretty exciting. Definitely looking forward to that. And I'm going to use this opportunity as a nice service reminder for everybody who bowls the Open Championships. You can see I got a different background today. I did not book my conference room, the Chris Schenkel room, in time. Someone else got it. So just like the Open Championships, be sure to book your entries early so you can get those prime time. But we're in the Marion Ladwig room this week, so that's cool as well. So a lot of great history behind me and in this room. But yes, sign up for the Open Championships early every single year, folks. Day one, get those times done.
All right. Well, some great advice there, Mr. Smith. And ironically, the gentleman we're about to talk to made 2 trips to the Open Championships in recent years when time allows. And one of those trips yielded some pretty good results, some prize money, and some time in the spotlight. So let's not waste any more time hearing about what we're up to. Let's bring in the man, PBA Southwest Region Manager, Pete McCordic.
Hey, thanks, Matt. It's great to be on with you guys. What a pleasure to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Welcome, and thank you for your time today. We look forward to it. We did some research, as always, tracked down some video clips and some photos from over the years, and looking forward to hearing some of the stories from your perspective and just about your lifetime in the sport. We certainly appreciate all that you have done for bowling, going back to your days as a competitor on the PBA Tour, starting in the 1970s. And then as the Southwest Region Manager from the late 1990s until now. And I've gotten to spend time with you in various regards, whether it be on the lanes as a competitor myself or due to your success at our events, the Open Championships, Bowlers Journal Championships, Super Senior Classic, you name it, you've done it, and we're going to talk about it. But first, let's catch up. Let's hear what's going on in your world. You're in the Houston area, so you guys have had to deal with, in recent years, hurricanes and flooding and now COVID-19 and, Houston being a bit of a hotspot for that. It's crazy times for sure. But what does that mean for you and the family? And then we'll talk about what it means for your role with the PBA as well.
Well, it has, everyone says 2020 is quite the year, and it really has been in a lot of aspects. I was originally furloughed earlier this year for about 6 weeks, and then since all the bowling centers were closed, it wasn't very viable to have any tournaments. So I was furloughed. They brought us back. We started scheduling tournaments. A week after being brought back, I came down with COVID, but it was probably one of the very mildest cases that you could have. I never had a headache or a sore throat. I did have some fever and body aches, but lasted about 5 or 6 days. And then I started feeling better, got the negative test back and went back to work. So just saying that, my wife's been healthy the whole time. She didn't catch it. So that part was good. So we're past that part, hopefully now. I'm in the part of Houston that hadn't been hit by any of the floods or anything over the last few years. So that part's good. And it was just once we started having the tournaments again in the PBA, we've actually been pretty busy. Our tournaments have actually been well. Every tournament has had higher entries than it did the previous year. So that part's been good too. And just looking forward to getting past this year and going on to bigger and better years.
We certainly appreciate all of your hard work again in the PBA Southwest region. And just to give the folks at home just some background, Pete McCordic, his PBA Tour career, again, going back to the 1970s, had success throughout the 1980s, and then called it a day in 1992-ish. We'll hear some more about that, the reasons why, and the path that he took in the sports. But along the way, 2 PBA Tour titles in 1988 and a very memorable performance in 1987. We'll definitely talk more about that, and we have a video to go along with that too. Pete McCordic is the twin brother of Paul McCordic. How about that? So one left-handed, one right-handed, pretty unique in that regard. Some pretty famous twins in the state of Texas. We've got the Scroggins brothers and then Anthony and Sean Lavery Spar as well. Those guys, either both right-handed or both left-handed, but Pete and Paul, a little bit different. Pete, tell us about that. Always kind of curious about the relationships there. Oftentimes, the brothers are either inseparable and able to do everything, travel, compete, help each other out, or just maybe don't get along at all, and it's all just pure competition. But you guys are now nearing 67 years of age, so you've had some time to get used to each other. Tell us about that relationship and maybe either how cool or how frustrating it might have been having somebody right there to push you along the way.
It's, no complaints. I don't have any other brothers or sisters, so it was just my brother and I growing up, and we've always been very close. You know, he is left-handed, I'm right-handed. It's called mirror image twins, identical twins, called mirror image. So it's not really rare. I'm glad I'm the right-handed one. So I do have sympathy and understand the plights of left-handers because of him. I just, you know, everyone thinks the left side is easier and all that. Well, it's not always that way. And you never get credit for bowling good if you're left-handed. You know, if you win a tournament, it's because the left-handers had the shots. So even if you bowl good and you're the only left-hander in the finals and you win, they'll just say, well, you never had to move your feet. No one was on your side. So it's tough for left-handers, and I do understand their plight. I still whine about them a lot, but you know, that's just because of my brother too. But no, we're close. We're still close. I go practice with my brother at least once a week whenever I can, if the tournaments don't get in the way. So we still practice together. He helps me some. I help him, try to help him a lot, but I think my coaching him hasn't really helped as much as he would have liked. So he says he's struggling now, but once he starts competing again, he'll be okay. But we started bowling USBCs together in '73 was our first year. Don Ellis Sr., who bowled with Bill Lillard, came into a pro shop we were working at and asked if we would bowl on their USBC team. And we're like 18 years old at the time. We're going, sure, why not? You know, so we went and bowled our first USBC tournament in '73 in Syracuse. And back in those days, the scores weren't very high. My brother and I actually finished second in the doubles that year. It was like 1309 or 1315, something like that. So we finished second in our very first tournament. That sounds good, except the doubles team that won it was the fifth players from our companion team and our team, Jimmy Payne and Jamie Brooks, won it that year, and they were on our squad. So we were just second best on our squad still. But that was a great start. And I've tried to bowl the USBCs every year since. My brother has bowled every USBC since. A couple years when I was on tour, I couldn't bowl in the regular division because of the rules at that time, and I might have dropped off the tour for a while, so I didn't go bowl the Masters. So I'm like 3 tournaments behind my brother. And when they introduce us in the squad meetings now, and he has 3 more tournaments than I do, I just say that's because he's my older brother. He's not, but you know, I just say, you know, he of course he says he looks older because he's had a tougher life, but I told him he's never had to strike in the 10th to cash or make the finals when he didn't have enough money to get to the next tournament. So I don't know who really had the harder life.
Well, you just hit all the points. You basically just did a quick rundown of my entire Word document of all the things that we wanted to talk about today.
I've got more. It's okay.
Perfect. We'll dive into each a little bit. We'll talk about your memorable debut at the Open Championships, of course, coming together in '73. You mentioned some pretty special names along the way there too. So we'll talk about your teammates over the years and some of the crazy and amazing moments you've been able to be a part of and witness too. But let's take it all the way back to the 1970s. We'll start with your PBA career, of course. The OC things getting underway there in '73. And so your tour career not starting too much after that. But it wasn't smooth sailing right away, I believe. And there was even a moment of leaving the tour to get a real job for a minute. So tell us about that. And then we'll cruise into the 1980s. And then, with the moment you said, having to step up in the 10th and win a title or whatever, there's a even bigger moment that you manned up for. So, but first, tell us about the start to the career and what the 70s was like for you.
Sure. Well, partly maybe because of some of the success we had in Syracuse. My brother and I both had a guy came into the same pro shop and wanted to know if my brother and I wanted to go out on tour for the summer of '73. And I mean, we're 18, 19 years old at the time, and we're thinking, well, of course, So we took off. We traveled together. We drove to the West Coast to start the PBA Summer Tour in California. My brother had quite a bit more success than I did. I think I got my first check in Fresno, which was probably like the 5th tournament, and I didn't cash again until for another 7 or 8 tournaments. So you just don't realize how good those guys are until you get out there. And I realized that I wasn't quite ready yet, but I kept trying to learn. The other weird thing about going out in '73 was that was also the year of the soaker. So not only are we trying just to learn how to bowl on the PBA Tour, travel around, things like that, now we had to worry about how long to soak our bowling balls without blowing up the motel rooms and things like that. So it was an interesting start to the PBA. I did bowl the winter tour of '74, and I think I bowled quite a bit in that year. It was either during the winter of '74 or the winter tour of '75. I just said, I'm not ready for this. It's pretty frustrating watching it just getting beat every week. So I ended up quitting the tour in '75. My brother, who had won the All-American Youth Bowl scholarship, or whatever it was called at the time, National Scholarship, he got a $1,000 scholarship in Washington, D.C. for that. And back in those days, he went to University of Houston, so he never bowled the fall tour. He did bowl some of the winter tour and the summer tour for a few years. And he went to school in the fall and the spring, and he said that $1,000 scholarship got him into the second part of his junior year, of course, living at home and things like that. So it helped him a lot to get through school. That's probably my biggest regret, is that I didn't finish my college. I went to U of H for a while, but I decided I'd try and go make my millions on tour, and I've fallen a couple million short of what that is. So, but I've got no complaints. I did quit the tour in '75 for about a year and a half. Worked in a bowling center, management, assistant management, things like that. It was one of the toughest centers in the Houston area. I think I averaged 186 for the year that I worked there in the league, and it was a high average in the house. So, judging on that, I ended up resigning from that position, not knowing what I was going to do. But in the summer, back in the '70s, a lot of people could make money bowling summer. You had sweepers and Calcuttas 4 or 5 nights a week. You had all kinds of action going on. Butch Gerhardt, who was from Houston or lived in Houston at the time, multi-time titleist on the PBA's tour, he stayed at home in Houston for just to bowl all the action around Houston in the summertime. He said he could make more money doing that. So I started bowling around Houston again just that summer, and I ended up making enough money to go back out on tour. So I went back out in the fall tour of '76, and I stayed out there from pretty much from that full time from that time through '93, '94, something like that. So had a lot of tournaments, a lot of good times.
Before we talk about some of those good times, tell us again about this this magical pro shop of opportunity in Houston, where you can just hang out and superstars come in, they ask you to bowl, they offer you money to go on tour. Because I have some free time on the weekend. If I need to hang out there, just let me know if it's still in business.
No, unfortunately, those people that came in and asked us to bowl with them, they never bought any equipment. So we the pro shop didn't do very well, and we didn't. It was actually ahead of its time. My dad had this idea of putting a one lane into a warehouse, mini warehouse, or a warehouse type thing, regulation lane, make it a pro shop, give lessons. We had a videotape recorder. And again, this is back in the early 70s. So we did have some people coming in and doing that, but it really wasn't the total success that it could have been. And obviously my brother and I pretty much ran the place, and with help from my parents. But when we had the chance to go on tour, he understood, and obviously it's not like we were making tons of money there. So that part closed down, and we went on tour. So yeah, it was our own pro shop, and like I said, not enough people had lessons or bought bowling balls, so it was an easy decision to make.
So, Aaron, you've been around the Open Championships enough over the last decade. Imagine the kind of success Bill Lillard and Don Ellis and Jamie Brooks would have had they bought some equipment and got some tips at the pro shop, right?
No, their own personal lane to practice on as well.
Did bowl one. Yeah. No, they never came to us for lessons, but just bowling with them was, especially Don. Don was always willing to help, and that first year of bowling with them, it was in Syracuse, home of Marty Pirano, and the Marty and Bill and we're very good friends, it seemed like. And in fact, when we were up there for the championships, I hadn't thought about this in ages, but we went to Marty Pirano's bowling center at the time and to practice there for the championships. And Don told me I wasn't playing the lanes right, and he said, "You need to do this, and we're just bowling open play." But the next game I had a 300 game, so it was kind of amazing to do that. And Don is very knowledgeable about the game. It's just a very fundamental type game, and that's what my game was, or is. So he could always help too. Yeah.
We've enjoyed the opportunity to spend a lot of time with many of those gentlemen over the years, watching them reach milestones at the Open Championships, whether it be longevity or pinfall. So looking forward to hearing your take on some of those. Before we get to the OC and where we actually talked for the first time was in 2006 at the Open Championships. But we're going to go back a couple of decades first, and we'll talk about your PBA career again. For a lot of folks, many know you as Pete, the Southwest Region guy. Others who follow you on bowl.com and some of your success at our events. But a lot of people know you as the guy who bowled 300 on TV, and that was brought back around in Bowler's Journal recently and celebrated. Also one of the top 5 moments in the first 60 years of the PBA. But you bowled a televised 300 game in 1987 in Los Angeles. Again, to that point, as you said, success was a little bit harder to come by over the years. And then this was kind of a breakout for you. Maybe after some close calls, it finally happened. You mentioned stepping up and throwing the big shot. This is the 4th of 28 televised 300 games, I believe. But, man, let's hear about it. You're on the approach, and knowing what's on the line, I'm sure this is something that was talked about. But for $100,000, you got the 10th one, you got the 11th one, and now one shot for $100,000. Even now, $100,000 is a lot of money. But in 1987, pretty significant payday. So just tell us about that moment and getting up there and how you felt, and if you remember, if you thought anything at the time, and then what happened afterwards.
Yeah, I get goosebumps just thinking about it still. Just a little background on the whole game. I was either 4th or 5th qualifier, I don't remember which, and I was bowling against Wayne Webb. And you would have at least 30 minutes practice on the TV pair before the show would actually start. So we were down there, and you got 5 guys. 30 minutes is really a long time. And back then, the lights were really hot, and I'm sweating and all that. And I had a decent reaction on the right lane in practice, but I really didn't have a very good look on the left lane at all. And like 5 minutes before airtime, I just said, I got to go up to the paddock and try something. So I went up to the paddock area, the locker room, grabbed the ball out of the bag, took it back down, threw it on the left lane, it struck in practice, threw it on the right lane, it didn't react good. Goose, Harry Golden, our tournament director, said, all right, Pete, that's it, no more practice. So I really didn't know what to do. I said, well, I'll start the left lane with one ball in the right and throw the other ball in the right lane. And so that's how we got started. And I, it just took it. My TV record was horrible at the time. I'd made quite a few shows, but very few wins, if any, just in matches, much less tournaments. I'm bowling Wayne Webb, and, I start with double turkey. I think I tripped a 4-pin in the 4th or 5th frame. Everything else was pretty good. Wayne is striking too. I mean, I think he left a spare early in the game. And even though I've got even the 8th frame, I remember striking and just probably wasn't a pure shot. And just remember thinking, well, I got a good enough shot to shoot 300 here. I just had that. And then Wayne Webb missed in the 9th frame. And when he missed, I knew even if I opened in the 10th, by now I had the front 9. So even if I opened in the 10th, I shot 270, 260 and was going to beat him. So that's when it hit me that I had the chance for this. And this is in 87. There hadn't been a 300 game since 1974, Jim Stefanich. And Larry Lichstein is in the settee area. And from like the 8th frame, he just, Pete, you can do it. You can do it, Pete. Just constantly reinforcing this. I remember that. So I get up in the 10th. Obviously, I'm nervous. I was always nervous bowling on TV anyway. Not this nervous, but I just kind of relay it to, that's why you do this. That's why you practice your 20, 30, 40 games, hot summer days, sweat dripping off you, and you still got to make shots. So my whole focus when I get in those situations, get the push away step right and hit your target. I mean, you can't try and do too much. Obviously, you're in that position because you're somewhat in the zone where you're bowling good anyway. So just if you get the push away step right, keep your eye on your target, just let it go. And the 10th shot, I threw pure. It was perfect. The 11th shot, I thought I lost it a little bit. In fact, Bo even said that if you ever watch the show, the 11th shot, I lost a little bit, but it reacted and it struck. I mean, it was online. I just felt like I lost a little bit. Then the 12th shot, my goodness, people still say how much I was shaking. And they said, you know how much you were shaking? I said, yeah, I was there. I know exactly how much I was shaking. But it was the same thing. I just thought, get the push away step right and go, when I first threw it, I thought it was through the nose, and fortunately the good Lord stuck his hand down and held it in the pocket, and all the pins went down, and it's pretty amazing. Yeah. So I remember John Jowdy being one of the first ones out there to congratulate me. My wife at the time, she was there, so she saw that. But the thing that got, so that was great. The next game, I got started. I think I left a 4-pin in the first frame or something. I missed a spare like the 6th or 7th frame, and I'm thinking, geez, I got $5,500 for 4th place, $100,000 for the win. I've got to win 3 more matches to get $12,000. Let's go celebrate, So I still tried and all that, but the motivation for that second game was kind of not there. And Mats Carlson bowled a great game and went on to win the tournament. The first, I think at the time, the first international player to win, or somebody from Europe to win on the PBA Tour. So it was almost that I kind of overshadowed that, but that was by far what I thought would be my great day. I had never won on tour before. And so if you hadn't won on tour, people probably think you can't throw strikes when you need to. And I thought maybe that would kind of get that monkey off the back that I had the most money won without ever having won a tournament. But all that did was give me more money to show that I had the most money won without ever winning a tournament. So it was a great thing. And then as I'm going to go ahead and go to 88 now. As great as that was, I think I made 4 shows. The next 4 shows I made that year, I shot 240s every game and lost every game. So, or maybe the next 4, I don't know if it was all in that year. So I bowled well that year on TV, or for a while on TV. I still just didn't win too many games. And then in Fresno in 88, I led the tournament and was bowling Tucky Perez for the title. And I split in the second frame. And I was really upset, second or third frame. I was really upset with myself. I just said, "You're better than this." And I ended up striking out after that for a 250 game to win. And I had to strike in the 10th to shut out Tucky. So that was my first win. And as great as the 300 game was, there's nothing like winning. So striking to win the first PBA title was actually more meaningful to me than the 300. Believe it or not.
All right, well, there you go. Another question from the bottom of the list. We're going to cross that one off. What was the more special moment? But definitely some great insight there. And, of course, we're going to take a look at this 300 game. We've got the video queued up so we can relive the moment. Back in 1987, it was the first perfect game on TV since 1974. And Bo did point out how much you were shaking. I couldn't tell, but I imagine – I know how I feel at an event when you're behind me with the camera. I can't imagine being on TV in this situation.
And as you mentioned, Wayne, 249 was running 270 up until
right
in the ninth frame. So definitely a close match. But here is that final shot.
Pete McCordic, bowling immortality.
That's a sight, Bo.
Within his grasp, one more strike. 1974, Jim Stefanich was the last time.
All right, here it is. Right lane. We have it! We have it!
So the $100,000 shot. The big question is, what did you buy with that $100,000, or how well did you manage that? How long did it last for you?
Well, it took a while to get it, actually. True Value had an insurance policy on it and all that, and True Value had a tournament that I think that the Torrance tournament was like the second or third one of the year, and True Value had one like 11th or 12th week, and they wanted to give me the check there. And I said, "You've already given me one fake check. Can I get the real one? And you give me another fake check there?" I don't want to wait 2 months. People are trying to call me, so it took a while. I was a little in debt with the IRS when I won that. So it was very, very much needed. But yeah, it was good.
I think a lot of good lessons there too. You talked about it, kind of the mindset going into that last shot, and just thinking about that, trying to pry the ball off your hand for $100,000, but just focusing on one or two small things. Definitely a good note for all the folks back home who find themselves, maybe not bowling for $100,000, but going up for that first 300, first 800, needing that strike. That's definitely a good tip for the folks to take home with them too.
Yeah, it's just basics. I mean, like I said, that's why you practice. That's why you get there, and just stick to what you work for and what you work at, and go for it.
So an amazing moment there. You already mentioned winning on the tour in 1988, which you did twice within a couple of months, and then it kind of calmed down for you, I guess, after that, or wound down. And then we get into the 1990s, and then it was time to say goodbye again. Tell us about the highs that you felt in 1988 and kind of what happened after that to get you where you ended up.
Sure. 88 was really a good year. I won those 2 tournaments. And then after that, I think in one of the articles, I think it might have been Bowler's Journal, somebody asked me about my career, and I just said consistently mediocre. And that's kind of how it was for a few years. As my kids were getting older, we were on the road 35 weeks a year. Even though I was having some success, it's not like I was making a whole ton of money after 87 and 88. And then I hit a slump. I hit kind of a bad period, and where I was struggling on the lanes a little bit, whether personal problems or just not adjusting to the lanes right, I was struggling. And, when you're sitting in the settee area wondering what job would be worse than trying to do this for a living, it's probably time to look for another avenue. So in the early 90s, I don't remember exactly what year it was, 92, 93, I decided to try other avenues. But yeah, it was, like I said, just a bunch of things happening at the same time. And it was just time. It was just time to quit. The PBA hit its struggles. They lost the ABC rights money contract, and so the prize funds were going to be a little bit tighter than what they were. Entry fees were going to be higher, and it was hard enough to make a living then. So just a whole bunch of things, like I mentioned, my kids and everything. So it was just time. It was just time to do something else.
All right, then right around the corner for you, around 1997, an opportunity to stay in the sport and serve it with the PBA. Tell us about that opportunity, how it came about. I remember reading you're pretty excited to be able to have a role in the PBA like you did, to stay close to it, even if you weren't competing. But tell us about that opportunity, and obviously one that was pretty special to you because you're still doing it all these years later.
Yeah. Like you said, it was in 96 that Cecil Cadell, who had the job since they started the regional program practically, was retiring. So I had started selling real estate. I was doing real estate when I quit the tour, did that, and I was having some success in it, but I just didn't enjoy it. I just didn't think that was the right thing for me. So when I heard Cecil was retiring, I went ahead and sent my resume in to PBA, and expressed interest in it, and just kept going on. I didn't hear anything back, and then I went to Bowl League one night, and the guy said, "Hey, did you hear that they just called 3 guys to be interviewed for Cecil's position?" I said, "You're kidding, right? You're kidding." So I immediately, Monday morning, I called and just said, "Hey, this is Pete McCordic. I just wanted to make sure that you got my resume." And I think it was Bobby Dinkins said, he says, "Pete, I think we did. Hang on." And then he said, "Let's call you back." So Mark Gerbrick gave me a call a few hours later and said, "You and I need to meet and talk." And so I flew up to Akron and talked to Mark, and he told me that I had the position. So I was very grateful, and I think 2 or 3 of the other guys might have been a little upset that that I got it. But so I did end up getting the position as Southwest Region Tournament Director, regional manager, regional director, whatever the title is at the time. And I've been doing that for 23 years. And being at the tournaments is the best part of the job. I get to see so many great players. I try to learn a little bit about it, but man, these guys are good now. So it's just a pleasure to watch, and it's kind of exciting to see. You almost want to feel that bowling is probably on the upswing again. Like I said, the entries in my tournaments are up. It seems like a lot of people miss bowling through this year, so maybe there's a silver lining in all this stuff.
Now, Pete, you mentioned 23 years of getting to watch, some of the best up and coming bowlers in the Southwest, and something I noticed quickly when I moved here was just the amount of talent in this area alone. Through those 23 years, who, and if you want to say Matt Cannizzaro, you can, but who are some of the favorite players you just got to watch kind of develop over the years, and obviously go on to bigger and better things on the tour. But who are some of your favorites to watch? Just to see their progress come up through the ranks.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. And again, this is behind Matt. So other than Matt, I'll just go ahead and mention guys like Chris Barnes. Chris Barnes won one of his first regional events. I believe it was in El Paso. And to make matters really worse, now he's a senior, he's on the senior tour. And back then he's a 20-something-year-old guy. So I'm really felt old when that happened, when I found out he was eligible for the senior tour. But just watching Chris, Wes Malotte's another one. I remember Wes just starting to bowl in regionals before he went out on tour and had so much success. And it's amazing the talent that's always been in our region. I mean, if you go back to Del Ballard and just all the guys there, and Anthony Simonson. When first time you see Anthony, Simonson, he was probably only 17, 18 at the time. And you watch him, you just knew he was going to be good too. So it's just really been great watching all these young guys grow into it and grow into such success on the national tour. Those are the three that pop up right now. And I'm sure there's 20 others that I've enjoyed watching and get better. Because I've always said that the only way to get better is to bowl these regional events, bowl on tougher patterns. You don't get to do that in many house shots, or you can't do it just on house shots. And most leagues are on house shots, except for maybe summer 12-week league that might be on a sport shot. But to get better, you have to bowl against the best, and you have to do it on shots that aren't house shots. So. It's great to watch guys dedicated to try and do that, maybe struggle a little bit and then have a lot of success. So that's a rewarding part of getting to watch what I get to do.
It's a pretty elite company there, Matt.
Yep.
So you see, Aaron, I felt the same way in 2006. I got to watch Pete and Paul McCordic come out and make some magic happen at the Open Championships. That was early in my career there as well. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be talking to these guys way down the road. I think they're going to be successful for a long time to come, and absolutely was correct. So now we'll shift gears, Pete. As you left the PBA Tour, that meant that while your tour career had ended, your Open Championships career was about to begin once again. You mentioned already 1973 and how special it was to have that debut. You got to bowl with your brother, the runner-up finish, so I'm sure some motivation there. You got to watch the Eagle happen. With your teammates there, and again, surrounding yourself with some of the best our event has ever seen. So the motivation of being so close and then being able to follow in their footsteps and learn from them had to be pretty awesome, I would think. And then to finally get the chance to be back on the OC stage a couple decades later. 2006, you guys made a run at doubles once again, 30 years into your OC career. So all of that experience playing out there and ended up, I think, 20th that year, but we had the opportunity to have a conversation and interview and take a photo. But tell us about being back at the OC, being reunited with Paul and your teammates, and what that event has meant to you. And then we'll talk about the recent success you've had.
Sure. Well, there are advantages to bowling early at the championships, So like you say, we ended up 20th, but when you bowl in the first month and you post a good score, I mean, it was a good score. It's just we didn't expect it to hold up. But it's always fun to get your name up there on that board, even in second place or especially in second place. So, for years when I was on tour, I couldn't bowl the USBCs or the ABCs, as we called it back then, with my brother. But my brother bowled on a lot of good teams, and he had a lot of success there. I don't know what his high finish was, but I know he had some decent finishes there. So just to bowl with him, I mean, every year that we've been eligible to bowl together, we have bowled together at the USBCs. So that's always special. I mean, we're up there now, but, hey, under right conditions, we could surprise some people. So you never know about that. So that was good. I look forward to the USBCs every year. Especially you think about what's gone on. I mean, I first started with Bill Lillard and Don Ellis, and then bowled on tour for a while. They had the Classic division for a while. 1 year in the Classic division team event, we made the cut, and then we were leading it going into the last game. And I think we ended up second in the Classic division. But the thing I remember about that, I think as I said, we were leading it going to the last game, and through the fifth frame, we had no strikes. We had 50 spares. So obviously we didn't win, but I remember thinking that and thinking, wow, this is kind of a team effort here. We need to get it going. But back, for years, the lane conditions were extremely tough. I mean, they're tough now. I'm not saying that, but there are years there. Well, like in Syracuse, what did we have, 13-10 or something like that? That's within 5 or 10 pins of it, and we finished second. So now it's 14's good 1,400 to win. So a lot of that may be equipment and pins and stuff like that, but it is definitely scores were tough back in the 70s and early 80s. In fact, I think there's a couple of years where I might not even had a 1,600 just because they were tough. But anyway, we look forward to it. Well, I look forward to going with whoever I was bowling with, but especially with my brother, going with Bill Lillard's teams for quite a few years. Now I bowl the USBCs. My brother's on my team, and we get to bowl with my two sons and a friend of ours that we bowled with since practically high school, just out of high school, Steve Wright. So it's just a relationship that goes on, between me and that. And bowling with my sons, my oldest son at one time averaged 220 on house shots, and he's had a couple of decent USBCs. My other son averages 200 on house shots. So I don't think we'll ever have a chance to win, but we make money every year. We finish in the cash, and we get to spend a lot of quality time together. So it's a special event for a lot of different reasons.
All right. Well, we've got some numbers here, and I'd like to just share some of those. But Aaron, can we see that 1973 photo just one more time while we give a rundown here on the career? I didn't want to just gloss over that one because that was a phenomenal picture. There it is. And they say you haven't succeeded at the OC unless you get your picture taken, and then we'll keep it forever and ever. And there it is.
Ironically enough, I think the way that photo was taken, there's one of Pete and Paul, and then I think Jamie and Jim are on the other side, because you can actually see
their hand up there or something. Yeah.
Those wacky PR guys trying to make shortcuts back in the old days.
I didn't know you could crop photos back then, but I guess you can, huh?
It's called scissors.
Okay.
But that was the first of 44 appearances on the championship lanes for you, Pete. A career average of 205.3, which is pretty solid, and puts you right in the mix for the lifetime list for 30 or 40 years now. Paul is on that list. All of his performances, he's got 47 in, I believe, have been at the OC proper. So he's on that 40-plus list. And then your Masters ones removed have you just outside the number. But the 205 for a career is pretty spectacular. And again, the folks you surrounded yourself with at the Open Championships, Don Ellis, Bill Lillard, those guys right around the 200 mark for their entire careers. And then wow, the things that you probably got to experience and be a part of with them. Can you tell us about some of those highlights? I mean, we've gotten to share 60 years with both of those gentlemen, 100,000 pins, the all-time pinfall mark. Again, whether you're in the spotlight or just on the outside looking in at some history like that, that had to be pretty amazing too.
Yes, it was. The center that I was bowling junior leagues back in the high school years, Bill Lillard and Don Ellis ended up buying the center from a gentleman named Fred McGee. And Fred McGee was an older guy, and it was just Bill and Don ended up buying it with Pete Trabig. And so I knew who Bill Lillard was, but I'd never really met him before. And Don had been around bowling in Houston area since I was even younger in junior league. So I'd known Don Ellis. But just Bill was always just very positive whenever he came in. Hey, Pete, how you doing? You know, very cheerful, always very positive and all that, you know, and so it was, but he didn't bowl much there. You know, I don't know how much he actually bowled until maybe one league a week or something. I bowled the same league he did years later, but he's still the same. He was just always very positive, and to be on the companion team with Bill when he broke the all-time record for the pinfall, that was just a thrill. I got a little story about that, but it's probably on your list, so I don't want to.
Oh no! So all your stage is yours. Of course, that was back in 2015. All three of us got to be there for that moment. You, me, Aaron was on the camera. A moment we'll never forget, certainly. But again, from your perspective, being in this tee and being part of the celebration, what was that day like for you?
Well, it was, in a way, you have to remember that Bill by this time was in his mid 80s, I think, something like that, late 80s. And he had some leg issues, so it was very hard for him just to get around. So he was taking a one-step approach and throwing a plastic ball, and I'm sure it was a little awkward for him, you know, knowing that he's really not competitive, but this is what this record meant to him. He just he wanted it. And so he was taking a one-step approach with a plastic ball, and you know, he's barely shooting 100s, and maybe not even shooting 100. But we knew that he needed 60-something more pins, and my brother and I are bowling doubles and singles on the pair just right of where they're bowling doubles and singles with my two sons. We only had the four of us on one pair, and all the other pairs had 6. So we had heard that once he breaks the record, there's going to be presentations and all that. And somebody had said during the presentations, it may be 15, 20 minutes before you get to throw your shot. So we were trying to kind of hurry up to see if we get done with all our games so we wouldn't have to wait this 20 or 30 minutes. And my brother and I, we were actually bowling pretty well at the time. I think, I don't remember exactly. But once it got down close to where Bill was going to break the record, I think we were in the 8th or 9th frame, but he needed 6 or 7 pins, if I remember right. And he threw it, and he ripped the rack. I mean, he slashed the 5 into the 7. He was down on his knees. He gave it the arm pump, and I expected everyone to start running out because I was on the lane just to the right of him, and it's like, where is everybody? So I'm like one of the, you know, I wanted his family to be there and everybody like that. And it's like no one else realized that he just broke the record. So I just said, Bill, you did it, you know. And then by that time, the family had all come on down there. But I didn't want to be the one in the picture and take the moment away from all his family. But I was like the first one, it seemed like, that realized when he had broken the record. So that was kind of special. I'll keep that to myself, though.
So that's it. There's an awesome day, awesome memories, awesome to hear just what it means to each of us. Of course, we talk a lot about Bill and all of those gentlemen, really, and what they mean to the event. They've all made appearances on our OC championship bracket, where we celebrated some of the greatest moments in tournament history. And of course, Bill voted by the fans as the number 1 competitor in Open Championships history, rightfully so. So glad to have shared those moments with him and to have you guys there. And then beyond that, we didn't get to see Bill compete again. We haven't seen Don Ellis in a few years. And as you mentioned, things kind of have shifted for you guys in your OC careers as well. And now it already was about family because you guys, the Houston group was a family, but now actual family, and the OC experience has changed a little bit for you, but the success has continued. So tell us about the post Lillard era for you and the family at the OC, and then we'll get into some specific successes for you on the lanes.
Yeah, after once Bill and then decided not to go, that was our companion team. So about 3 or 4 years ago, we got a different companion team with Mike Austin and some of the guys that we know in the Houston area. Like I said, Steve Wright, who was 5th man on Bill's team, he is now 5th man on our team, or our 5th. He's by not by fifth, I didn't mean he's the fifth best player by any means. So just a number, but my son bowled my oldest son, Patrick, bowled his first USBC event. I think when he was a freshman in college. So he was probably 19 or 20. I'd have to go back. Actually, he had to sub for me because I had to actually work a tournament or something on the dates that we had scheduled to bowl. So I wasn't quite able to bowl. So he went and subbed or took my spot on the team with my brother. And he's bowled every year since. And then Michael, my other son, is like 2 years younger than Patrick. And growing up, Patrick, both my sons love sports. Patrick loves all the sports and all that. He just wasn't very good at any of them. He was good in academics. He was a good bowler. He was, but he loved baseball and all that. He just didn't have much success at it. Michael was just the opposite. Michael didn't do as well in school, but he was good in every sport. So since his older brother, with the only sports that his older brother could beat him in at the time was bowling and golf, Michael really didn't care much for bowling or golf until Patrick graduated and they started high school bowling. So Michael started bowling, and like I said, he got up to a 200 average. He bowled for University of Houston. So anyway, he started bowling on our team too. So that's how we've got the four of us and that. So that we've been going together now probably for 7 or 8 years, I guess, as the four of us with different teams.
The big question is now with the PBA regional schedule, you're on the road 20 or 30 weeks a year doing these events, running them all over the Southwest. And then you come out and you bowl some of the scores we've seen. So when do you have time to sneak in the practice? Are you there? Do you set up the office and then you go run the lanes for the week and just knock out 5 or 6 hours of practice, or just that good? Maybe that there's no need to stay sharp. I know you mentioned practicing with Paul every once in a while, but your performances might indicate that you practice and get out there a little more than your schedule might indicate.
I've been kind of fortunate in some ways along that. No, I don't go practice 5 or 6 hours at a tournament site that I'm working at. Actually, but I will say if it's close by, if it's a tournament I actually can drive to, I might get there 30 minutes, an hour early and throw some shots, or maybe get down there during the practice session on one of the lanes and throw some shots just to try and loosen up. I will say that usually before a major tournament, since I can't bowl any PBA events, since I'm an employee of the PBA, the only events I really gear up for are the USBCs, the Senior Masters, Super Senior, and now South Point Senior Shootout stuff. So those are the events that I really try to gear up for. So I try to practice, I try to get ready. Once I turned 60, I realized that these guys are good and I'm getting old, and I owe it to myself to try and be in the best shape that I possibly can be. So I started working out more when I was about the time I turned 60, and I still do it. I still jog or run 3.5 miles a day, 5 or 6 days a week. So I just feel like I have to try and keep myself in as good a shape as I can if I even want to dream of beating these top players. And I do start practicing more before. Fortunately, the schedule, that's usually why we go early in the USBCs. It's because my schedule is not as busy then, so I do have time to practice and try and get ready for it. The other thing I do is Donna Connors and Carol Norman have a pro shop here, and Donna gives great lessons on video. And I've known Donna, well, she'd probably be upset if I said how long I've known her, but it's let's just say at least 40 years. And she knows my game, and she'll put me on video, and she can usually get me straightened out in 15 or 20 minutes on video. She's just so good at it with me on video. So I can get pretty sharp in a relatively short amount of time if I practice and do the things I'm supposed to do, and if I can match up right with the lanes. So, you know, it's not always just about how you're bowling physically now. It's just the knowledge that you have to have the right equipment. You have to play the lanes right too. That's always been part of the game, but it's even more important now. It's just playing the lanes right.
You mentioned the Super Senior Classic, and I think that was our next run-in outside of PBA competition from 2006. In 2013, we got to celebrate your 60th birthday. You guys made it within a day of the start of that event, right? You turned 60 at the Super Senior Classic and had a huge debut once again. I think that that first event, we mentioned Syracuse already, first time out, Super Senior Classic. There you are, and you've kind of been in the spotlight, at least with us, almost ever since. But tell us about that milestone. You already mentioned it a little bit, but that was the inaugural event. So it's like it was a birthday party for you guys, and it's been every year since. Just tell us about that event, and then it didn't end maybe how you wanted to, but it certainly showed all of us something.
Yeah, like you said, we turned 60 the day before the tournament started, so we were literally the youngest ones there. It had to be, so or maybe the day that it started. So that was kind of good. We were so grateful for the USBC to have this tournament that my brother and I bowled. We both made the top 5. I think I beat him, and then it was probably a close match, and I'm sure he left 4 or 5 solid 7s, and somehow just didn't get the right carry, but because he threw the ball excellent, I think. So I got by him. Then Kerry Painter, who's been a top bowler in the Vegas area for years, he beat me. I don't even think it was that close. I don't know the final score, but it would have been a great tournament to win. I just always think probably an unrealistic goal would be to someday try and get in the USBC Hall of Fame. I know I have to win something. I mean, I've got 3 seconds in USBCs. I finished second at that. I just feel like I need to. So it's really important for me to try and do something, the Super Senior, maybe the Senior Masters before I get too old and decrepit, and something like that. So, but that is a goal somehow, some way. So,
well, we certainly enjoy seeing you compete out there, Pete. And I think one of the interesting things with the Super Senior Classic is kind of seeing how it's grown over the from those first few years up until the recent run in Vegas, where essentially that event sells out pretty quick right before the start of the Senior Masters. We kind of talked about the younger game coming up and being strong in the regional program. What's it like seeing all these 60+ competitors out there, kind of in the same way, out there competing, having a good time? And just the growth of the event in general.
Sure. I wasn't going to say that. I think that first Super Senior event, we had maybe 25 entries or so, maybe 30. I don't remember how much it was, but to see from where it has gone, like you said, from that to a full field last year, and I think it's really a unique format for that tournament. That's the first time I've gotten to bowl a Super Senior, or maybe the second time. I think I bowled in Green Bay the year it was in Green Bay too. But I haven't had a chance to bowl as many as I would like because of my work stuff. So this year was really great. I hadn't bowled in it in a couple of years, and to see the change in it, and still the talent available, or the guys that are so talented at 60 years old. That's what I say. I have to try and keep in shape just to be able to keep up. I was very pleased with how I bowled in the Super Senior tournament this year, and ran into Hugh Miller's 289 game, and it's tough to beat a 289. So I had to settle for third place, but I'll take it. That was a great experience.
Well, now you seem to have been able to find a way to shine in the over 50, over 60, and taking advantage of those opportunities at the Open Championships. You're still flirting with 1900 every year on the lane, so definitely a good command over the lane conditions out there. And anytime you can shoot over 1800, certainly a respectable performance and a nice goal for most competitors. And then alongside the Open Championships, we have the Bowlers Journal Championships. And we spent a lot of time in the last couple of years running back and forth between the two bowling centers because Pete McCordic was in town. In Las Vegas at South Point, there's the bowling center, and then the bowling plaza where we have the Open Championships. And it's a pretty good walk, especially when they call over and say, hey, somebody's got the front seven. You think you can get over here by the time this 300 is done, or whatever the case? And our goal, of course, is to bring the news from both events. In 2017, you had the opportunity to join us multiple times in Las Vegas, and again, find the spotlight. First time out, it was with a 300 game at the Bowlers Journal Championships. I know, we didn't show up with a big check for $100,000, but still, probably a pretty special accomplishment to be on that stage and have 300, which helped you to a nice doubles performance that particular day. And then you got to come back. But first, tell us about that 300 and the performance, and then how that maybe motivated you in general and motivated you to make that return trip to give it another shot down the road.
Sure. You talked about how much I practice before I get there. I've always thought that the Bowlers Journal was a great place to try and get sharp. So for years, we've tried to get there. At least I have tried to get there 2 or 3 days before the Open Championships, just to bowl on a competitive condition. Especially since now that they have the same condition at the Bowlers Journal that they do for the doubles and singles. So, they never play exactly the same, but it gives you a good idea of what to do. So when that year when I was there, I went down. I think I shot 300 one of my first games there, and I bowled a few other times. That was, I think, the doubles event, bowling the doubles. As you can see, that wasn't a pure shot or anything, but I knew I had a good reaction there. I wasn't totally happy with how I threw the ball while I was there. And I noticed that the scores really weren't that high. My wife had to go out of town with her job. I didn't have any tournaments to run. I had some airline points and things like that. So I said, why don't I just go back and bowl some more Bowlers Journal? So I flew back to Vegas and bowled. And I think I shot 800, or what did I shoot?
You did. You had 812.
812
in your return trip. You'd already bowled well at the OC. You had the 300, some top doubles finishes. You can bowl with multiple partners at the Bowlers Journal, so you had some good finishes there. And then 812 to win senior singles, not super senior. That came later. So you beat up on the kind of older guys and shot 812. That was a solid score and a terrific performance.
I got to tell you, Matt, that was exciting to me. I really I can't tell you what that meant at the time. Just shoot 800 at the Bowlers Journal, win the senior division. I haven't had that many 800s in my life. I've had some of them on house shots and all that, but to do it at the Bowlers Journal really meant a lot. Especially, I think Bo Gergen was leading it with 760 something before that. So, and that was like the last week. On the down note of that, right after that, Ron Moore walked in, and I'm still a little jittery and pumped and excited about shooting the 800. And Ron Moore walks in. I said, I need to bowl with Ron Moore in doubles. So we bowled, and I think I dumped him. I shot like 620 or 630, and he shot a pretty good 700. So we had a good finish, but I didn't bowl as well in the doubles. But it was just too much adrenaline. I should have taken a squat off or something, but so I owe Ron a dinner or something probably.
You and Ron, you guys should knock out some push-ups, kind of work out the schedule, get everything settled down for that block. But Ron, quite a gentleman out there in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
All right. So Pete, you came back in 2018, and they have some very nice trophies at the Bowlers Journal Championships now. And we had one for you, but because we were off-site in a different facility, we were not there to get a picture, and it turned out that the trophy broke for you. So, of course, no doubt, I'm sure I made a smart-ass comment to you about your trophy and said, you know what, just win again. How about that? You got that trophy, take that one home, win again. And then 2019 comes around, and you absolutely did do that. You came back to South Point in 2019 after the year in between in Syracuse. And again, South Point Bowling Center, you got the job done this time in senior singles. Just tell us about being back in that super senior. I'm sorry. Come back and tell us about just your comfort level in that building with the Bowlers Journal, the OC, the senior shootout with Ron Moore, his event, some great performances in that building. But to actually come back and win again, we still have that trophy to present to you, and we'll make sure that we take better care of it. But tell us about being back at South Point and continuing that run of success.
Sure. Well, first stop when you get into town is go up to the bowling center and see if you can get on the squad for the Bowlers Journal. So we got there, we checked in the hotel, we went to the bowling center. Squad starts in 30 minutes or so. So I signed up for it just to bowl the super senior singles first, and I think I shot 279 the first game. I remember my first practice shot. I played it kind of like I did 2 years before, and the grapevine had said that they seemed a little tighter this year, that year, than they did in 2017. So, I said, well, so I played basically the same shot I did 2 years before with a little bit more aggressive ball, and it reacted pretty good in practice. So I started with it and shot 279 and I think 230 something the next game or something like that. So I'm 100 over after two. And then I go to the next pair and I think I left a 2-8-10, I chopped a bucket and maybe a 7. And make a long story short, I had 55 in the fifth frame. But then I struck out for 205. So I don't remember what I did different, but I was getting pretty embarrassed there, thinking I had 500 for 2, and I may not shoot 100 the last game, but then I made an adjustment or something, shot 2-0 the last game. I really did not expect that to last because, again, we usually go early for the Open Championships, but it held up the whole time. So
717 was the winning number. $2,000 came your way after that. And I'll make a deal with you. I will take personal care of the trophy before we head back to our next event. If you give me a heads up, send me a text when you're headed over to the Bowlers Journal, so I can put on my sneakers, charge the cameras, and so I can be ready to get over there because we know that you're going to have a performance again. So we want to be ready and get comfortable. That last video, the 300, actually was from Patrick. He sent that over again, just because we're next door, but not quite. So I want to be ready. I might just move the office for that week over to the Bowlers Journal for you guys.
That's too much pressure then. I don't know.
All right. Well, some good news and some bad news then. Again, you have proven that you enjoy South Point and the bowling center, and we'll be there in 2021, which is good news. Again, you'll get your award and another opportunity. And then we actually were headed to Houston in 2022. So a little bit bittersweet. There was going to be a brand new facility built right by your house there, right there in the Houston area, pretty close. And the lanes would have been in that facility. It would have been awesome, and a lot of excitement about being in a new city and being in the Southwest. And then COVID-19 happens, and then the project doesn't come to fruition. So won't be ready in time for the 2022 Open Championships. So again, bittersweet. It would have been right down the road for you. But instead, we're going back to South Point. So now you'll have back-to-back opportunities to come visit us in Las Vegas. So tell us about that roller coaster of emotions, knowing that you could have been at the Bowlers Journal weekly, didn't have to coincide with your PBA schedule during the week. You could have been there. You could have bowled all of your singles and doubles options that you had. But you get to go to Las Vegas instead.
Yeah. Well, it is South Point, so that's a bonus. I've had some good things there. I will say that probably the most disappointed person about the Houston thing is my brother, because that would have been his 50th if they'd had the tournament this year and the Houston tournament that year. That would have been his 50th, and to have his 50th Open Championships in his hometown would have been pretty special. But it's 2020, so things happen. So that would have been nice. To have it here. Hopefully sooner or later they'll be able to reschedule it in the Houston area. So hopefully that would come to fruition. I never mind going to South Point. Like you say, I've had some good tournaments there. So a little bit of positive feeling just going in. So I look forward to it.
We'll look forward to having you. We'll be ready for sure. And you mentioned Paul's 50th coming up. He's got 47 in, 44 for you. Just being that you've gotten to experience some of the things you have and some of the teammates you have, what does that mean? Besides the fact that you've been doing this for a minute, what does it mean from the sentimental side of things that you're approaching 50 years at the Open Championships?
Oh, well, the part of that means that I'm old and very forgetful, so I don't know how much I can remember about all this, but a lot of it is. I mean, I bowled with Dale Ballard one year in Albuquerque. He was on our team. We needed somebody on our team. So I've got to bowl with my sons. I bowl with Bill Ullard. I bowl with, in the Classic division, Steve Neff was on our team, Eddie Ressler, some great young players. We were the young King Louis team at the time. I'd have just a tough time. Billy Lillard, Bill Lillard's son, we used to bowl together when he was younger, so bowled with him quite a bit. Like you said, Steve Wright, we've known forever. Just a lot of people that we've known forever, we've stayed in contact with, but we've always bowled. I mean, you just make lifetime friends through bowling and going to the Open Championships. You always see people, people that work in the booths, the people that work at the desk and in y'all's offices and things like that. You see people you only see once a year maybe, but the people that run the Bowlers Journal, they're always very courteous and seem happy to see you, and it's a lot of great emotions.
Can you anticipate what you might feel walking out there, taking the spotlight all to yourself for that 50th? You'll have already watched, hopefully, Paul receive the honor. Very nice of you to let him have that moment and then take yours a couple of years later. But for what that means to be such a significant part of history, knowing that all eyes are on you and you've done this, it's not a $100,000 shot, but it I'm sure means so much in a different kind of way, as you described.
Well, sure it does. 50 years of doing it, and it's been a lot of great time. I mean, there were a couple of really bad years that I bowled too, but and to still, hopefully I can still keep being competitive in it and keep shooting 1800s or 1900s or close to it, so I can have one of the highest averages, in USBC history, and especially for that time frame and stuff. So there's still some goals there. Yeah. And 50 though, holy cow, that's a long time.
So now looking back on all the decades, all the competition, the PBA events, the Open Championships, do you have a career highlight? Is there something, it might not even have to be a performance, but something that happened to you in the sport, just one thing that stands out as the best moment of your entire career in the sport of bowling?
Sure. Winning in Fresno, my first PBA tournament. Like I said, there's just nothing. I threw that strike and I said champion, and I'd never been able to say that before. So that was the moment that probably means the most to me, bowling wise. Yeah.
We can definitely see, when you brought that up earlier in the conversation, that there were some emotions with that. So we can definitely appreciate that moment for you. I got a similar question, but in a little bit different tone, I guess. This is a little bit more fun. You have a cool job where you get to travel to different bowling centers across the country, every week. Is there a bowling center? What is the best bowling center snack bar out there? I got
there's that's not a fair question. There are some good ones, I will say that. And it doesn't matter what bowling center you're in. You're not going to get a better meal than a bowling center cheeseburger. I mean, that's just a given. So I thought about starting a franchise, bowling center cheeseburgers or bowling alley cheeseburger or something. You can't go wrong with that. So I'm going to not answer that for it's like a 22-way tie for first. How's that?
I like it. Just go with the cheeseburger though. That's good.
Well, now that we're all hungry and ready for lunch, we're getting close to the end here of today's episode. But Pete, now again, we mentioned that you're nearing 67 years old. It's right around the corner for you. You've been with the PBA now as a competitor and as a regional manager for many decades. What's the future look like for you? Short term, long term? How much longer are you hoping to continue in your current role, or beside the snack bar cheeseburgers down the road for you? What's on the horizon?
There's nothing definite yet. The R word, retirement, has kind of entered my mind here and there. It's not in the immediate future or anything like that. I would like to bowl the Super Senior and Senior Masters before I get too old and non-competitive. So I would like to be able to bowl those things. I don't know. It just depends. There's some new things with the PBA going on that could be very positive and all that. With the PBA and what it can offer the bowlers. So if that's a good thing, I'd like to be able to see some of that. But, I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now. There's no need for me to retire. But saying that, it's good that I'm the age where I am, where I have options if retirement does come into play, that it can happen. So nothing in the definite immediate future or anything, but it is kind of entering the mind frame a little bit more than it used to.
My personal bucket list does include winning a PBA 50 regional title. It's still about 8.5 years away, so I'm not quite ready to start practicing just yet. But it certainly would mean a lot if you're there to present that trophy. Again, almost a decade away, so hang in there for me.
Well, Matt, I would be more than happy to present you with that trophy, but 8.5 years, I'll have to be a spectator to do it, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I will. I'll let you know, and I'll buy you a cheeseburger as well. How about that?
Unless I'm the runner-up guy, then maybe I'm not too happy about it or something. So we'll have to see.
Well, appreciate it, and I appreciate your time today. Aaron, any final thoughts or questions for Mr. McCordic?
Pete, a big thank you. I was actually going to get into that too. I was going to chastise Matt that now that you mentioned the R word, that it's time for Matt to start practicing again. Get out on the page a little bit, so you can be there to hand him that trophy and present him that banner that I know is on his list. But is there any fun Matt Cannizzaro regional competition stories? As we finish up, any runs at 300s that you may have turned the tables on Matt?
No, I can't think of anything. So.
Perfect. See, Aaron, that's perfect. That's fine.
Sorry, Matt.
There actually were. I'll admit to it. I'll own up. There's actually 2 occasions, Pete, where I did have the front 9 at a couple of regionals not too long ago, and one for sure you were behind me with the camera, and and I got the 10th one and went light on the 11th one, left a 3-pin. And I saw you smile, and it was a kind of a payback smile, which is fine. It'll happen for me hopefully someday. I hope.
Sure
and
I hope I'm there to film it or have it on video. It. So, but yeah, saying that, he got even. Was that before or after a couple of years ago at the Opens? I had the front 10. And,
it's probably after a total payback. It's fine. It's all good. I'll get another opportunity to get the new PBA website is up. Looks good. Checked it out earlier. So I'll get into the portal, maybe sign up for something. Maybe my driver, Aaron Smith, will get me there safely and keep an eye on things and coach me along the way. But you never know when I might show up at the next non-member or non-champions or the doubles event in December is a whole lot of fun. So we'll see. But folks, we appreciate everybody tuning in today. Some great stories from Pete McCordic. His career goes way back to some successful days on the PBA Tour and a big role in PBA regional competition here in the Southwest. So we appreciate all the hard work and all the memories there. And, of course, annually at the USBC Open Championships and Bowlers Journal Championships, we'll have a special trophy presentation for him in 2021 when we get back to South Point. Looking forward to that. We'll take good care of that trophy for you, Pete. Everybody else, hopefully you'll join us again here on Bowl TV next week. We've got 2011 USBC Masters champ Tom Hess joining us for the Inside the OC podcast. Aaron Smith and Jason Thomas will have the PWBA podcast on Monday with Pamela Alvarez to talk about all the great things she's been up to. We'll continue our run with the greatest seasons in women's bowling. That'll be coming up tomorrow and again next Friday. So we're getting close to that number 1. So remember to check that out. But as far as Inside the OC and this week's show, that is going to do it again for Pete McCordic and Aaron Smith. My name is Matt Canizaro. Folks, that's the news for now. We'll see you on the lanes.
Thanks, guys.